What it do, my boo-boos? How is everybody? I'm good. It is gonna storm outside, so I clipped one of my peonies. Show you guys. Look how pretty. It's one of those dark red ones. I love them. It smells so good. It's one of my favorite flowers. These are the kind of bush that grows out of a bulb, and it comes back every year. And if you plant these and you have planted them for the first time, you just kind of leave them alone and they like die over the winter. And then right before spring, you can clip away like the dead bush and just like cut it away and like leave it, cut it down to the ground. And then it just like comes up out of the bulb again from under the soil, like the whole bush grows back. So just a gardening tip. We're here for our weekly manifestation oracle message. Little update on my little current branch of manifestation. So I figured out finally how to set up the official publication on Substack. And so I need to write some of my like welcome emails and stuff like that. And then I got into Patreon today and I was kind of looking at setting that one up as well. So that's what I've been working on, and I've got a couple of days off coming up. So that's what I am excited to spend my days off doing. All right. Okay. I felt like that card was one of them. This one, and we'll put those two aside. All right. So first card up. Ooh, Sacred Union. So we are in the counting of the Omer, and the Omer it represents the time and space from which the Israelites Moses parted the Red Sea. They went through the Red Sea, and then they walked for 49 days until they reached Mount Sinai. And Mount Sinai is where God came down and spoke to Moses and gave the Israelites the Torah for the first time. So the Torah, so when we hear in the Bible, when they talk about the bride and the bridegroom, that it has different layered meanings. Like sometimes it represents us unifying with God. Sometimes it represents us unifying with Christ consciousness. And ultimately, the highest form of that concept is God, the primordial masculine, the original cause, uniting with God's feminine, the bridegroom, uniting with the bride, which is the Torah. So if you've ever watched or been to a Jewish celebration of a holiday, whenever they bring out the Torah, it's adorned in these crowns and things, and it's marched out, and people bless it and get a blessing from it by kissing their hand and touching it, and it is the bride. It's like the bride being brought out and celebrated. And when the words of the Torah are spoken out loud in physicalization, in the physical material realm, that is when God gets to hear the sound of the Torah and be united with that in holy union, in the marriage of the ultimate highest God, the Father, and the bride. And so when the commandment in the 10 utterances, or the 10 commandments, says, honor thy father and mother, it's specifically talking about how when we keep the covenant, we honor Shabbat and holy holidays by reading the Shema or saying the Shema prayer out loud, and then following that with readings from the Torah. Speaking those words is like God marrying the bride, right? The word of God, being united and being able to hear that. So that is like light and vessel coming together. So that's honoring the father and mother. It's not just obeying your earthly parents or honoring them or being grateful that they gave you life, which that is true. But the higher, deeper concept of that is actually keeping the mitzvah of reading the Torah out loud on those holy days in those cosmic windows, and speaking those words and praying the Shema prayer out loud. So the period of the Omer, we've been talking about this and learning about it, is a period of 49 days where we are challenged and we are shown things about ourselves, like where we are able to perceive what needs tweaking and work. It's like a really potent time to do shadow work, because this is like when we kind of earn the light that we received during Passover. And this is like when we're sowing the seeds that will grow and blossom into miracles. So the more that we shed all those negative layers that aren't really part of our true, authentic spirit within, it's like we're washing off the residue that the soul has collected over the lifetimes and over this lifetime through fears and conditioning and negativity and lack and all of the things, right? And so the more we can shed away these parts of our personality that aren't really us, or overcome patterns and reprogram, then we are shedding the parts of ourselves that do not bear affinity with the light of the Creator. And the more that we become, that we share affinity, that we bear the affinity with the light of the Creator, the more we resonate with the Creator and we draw close. We harmonize, we come together, we come into union, and that's when we find ourselves in flow. And the light is moving through us, and we are aligned with our blessings and fulfillment. So when we make those sacrifices of the ego and we overcome and transcend them, and we shed what isn't us, and we become the purest version of ourselves, not like purity culture sort of thing, but unadulterated, untainted consciousness, then that holy union occurs, and things in our life start to shift, and our outer circumstances start to change, and we start to channel miracles more readily, and obstacles sort of move out of the way, and we find more flow and grace and harmony and fulfillment. So I'm very excited to see sacred union. So partnership and romance, very awesome. You know, love and money are connected, and not that manifestation is always about money specifically, but I think that the things that we have that are goals, whether those goals have to do with things we pursue, it could even be like a relationship that we want, or things that we want to create or share or become. Maybe we want to overcome something, a challenge that we've had in our lives, right? So, I lost my train of thought. Hopefully it'll come right back. Oh, I was getting at something, and it was pretty good. It was like, had to do with the way you're manifesting in alignment, I guess, with your authentic self, with your authentic path, and the parts of you that aren't authentic get out of the way, and they remove the blocks. Partnership and, oh yes, we were talking about how love, money are related under Venus. They're both ruled by Venus. But I think too, it's not just about love or money. I think it's about the way that you value yourself, and you have self-worth, and you respect yourself, and you treat yourself. And because of that, that's connected with what you think you're worth as far as dollars, or how you're treated at work, or what you feel like you deserve in a relationship, or what you feel like you're worth or able to receive in a relationship, the kind of love you're able to give yourself or allow yourself to have. But I think it also shows up in the way that we show up for ourselves in the things that we want to do, achieve, and become. I've talked about this before, about promising myself not to like sleep too much on the couch, disturb my sleep, my real bedtime sleep. And every time I promise myself I'm not going to do it, and then I do it anyway, I'm doing the same thing that like a flaky, like I wouldn't want a guy to do to me, right? Like if a dude were treating me this way in a relationship, I would think that he was being flaky and insincere and giving me empty promises and, being non-committal and, all of those things, unreliable. And it's like, why do I, in your mind, when you're not making that connection, you think, why would I attract these things? I think that in my conscious mind, I think I'm worth more than that. I deserve better than that. The thing is, are you treating yourself that way? Are you mistreating yourself, or are you treating yourself the way that you want to be treated by someone else? So many of us are quick to be very careful about how we treat someone else that we care about. But we're less careful about how we treat ourselves, or we don't even realize, or it doesn't even clock. And so when we start to love ourselves more, part of that, what that looks like, is demonstrating to yourself that kind of commitment and consistency and dependability. Like, you want someone else to be dependable for you, but you have to start with doing that yourself first. If you're treating yourself like some flaky guy coming in and out, giving yourself empty promises, or if you're a man watching this and you're, treating yourself like a flaky woman, or maybe you're gay, so whoever, right? Treating yourself like the flaky lover coming in and out of your life, then you're going to attract that, because that's kind of the signal that you're putting out. So you have to, when we're thinking about what kind of a relationship and partnership we want to call in, whether that be the kind of workplace environment, coworkers, the kind of pay and the kind of job that we deserve, the kind of relationship that we feel ready for, where we need to start first, and what we can control, what we have control over, is how are we showing up for ourselves? How are we treating ourselves? Is this a reflection of how we want the world to treat us as well? It starts with ourselves first. So it's like, get your relationship with the Creator in order by removing the parts of ourselves that keep us separate from the Creator, help us draw close. Like when we came to Mount Sinai, we had to go through a period of consecration in order to prepare ourselves to actually meet God, right? So again, when we want to go out for a big, opportunity in life, we have to prepare ourselves for that opportunity. We have to become the person that it requires in order to fill the shoes of that opportunity. Same is true in love and romance as well. We have to become the partner that we want for ourselves, and that we want to be for others as well. We can be that on our own, and that we don't have to wait for it to happen. We can be living in that vibration and in that space, and then that draws in like energy. Okay, love it. So this one's calling me. Oh my God, Hawk Prince. So this was with us last week, and I have been thinking about it all week as well, because spirit communication and paying attention. So one of the Torah lessons of this week to pay attention to is the fact that there is, like, we talk about like these dualistic pairings of consciousness that is like the Creator and not like the Creator. So one of those examples might be creator consciousness versus destroyer consciousness, or taker consciousness versus giving consciousness, or cause consciousness versus effect consciousness. The other one that is very relevant for this week is about being random consciousness, or everything has a purpose and synchronized, like God is behind everything. Everything is orchestrated. Every moment is contoured for the unfolding of our soul. Everything that happens to us is ordained by God. Everything that's happening in our life. Nothing is written in the script by accident. Everything is there to trigger whatever it takes to bring out the awakening and the unfolding of our soul, right? And to shed those layers that aren't us. So when we go through life thinking that things are random and they are not happening to us, or they're not happening on purpose, like God doesn't know this is happening, like we start to think in terms of being victimized and, oh, this is unfair. I'm suffering. This is, I don't deserve this. Something must have gone wrong. Everything is random. And then you forget, oh, this is actually, there's some purpose or there's some message that I need to see in this situation. There's something that I need to take away from this. It doesn't mean that I deserve what's happening to me in the situation. It just means that the situation is there and serves a purpose and there's a meaning behind it. That's why I like to think of life in terms of thinking of it as like a script being written. And like every day you're living out your own script. And when you're writing and when you're a filmmaker and you're in the editing process, like the whole team is involved, the writers, the editors, the producers, but everybody is under the understanding that you don't need a lot of superfluous scenes in the movie. It's very expensive. Is it driving the story? Is it building the character? Just these like little cutesy moments where people get to say something little funny and quippy. Waste of time. Does it drive the story forward? Does it, you've got your character moping over here about something. Is it a waste of time? It doesn't belong in the story. Is it building the character? Is it pushing the story forward? Is it driving the story? So if you're in the editing room, you don't want a 5-hour movie full of just a bunch of like fluff, and filler. You need to cut all that out so that the movie has like a momentum, right? A pace. So when you're looking at your life, there's nothing that's not there for a reason. There's a reason it's in the script. It serves a purpose. It's going to play a role, or even if that purpose is like an inciting incident to bring about the plot point that turns the story in a new direction, right? So the Hawk Prince, spirit communication and paying attention, it's paying attention to what's happening, knowing that nothing is random, and that even like don't think that like when something terrible occurs, God forbid, that like it's like, oh, it's deserved or anything like that. But there's a lot of things that have happened, like for instance in my family, that were very painful, very tragic, but those events shaped each of us in a certain way that did serve a purpose. And it doesn't invalidate the pain or anything around what had happened, but it certainly makes it more valuable. And it helps, I think, to come to an acceptance and understanding and get to the other side of those events when you can appreciate what you took away from them after the fact. And so the better if you can be in the thick of it and realize it in the moment. Like the faster you realize it, the more you can really own the circumstances, show up proactively, meet the situation from a higher perspective, and be more sovereign and on purpose rather than just being blown around by the winds of fate, right? So when we see that there's everything is orchestrated and that we can activate God in any situation as soon as we wake up and realize, oh my God, we're in this simulation, we're in this like interactive game, story, movie. There's a reason for this. Like, what am I supposed to take away from this situation? How am I supposed to show up in this situation? What is the ask from me spiritually in this moment? Right? So that actually elevates us and gets us closer to the Creator, rather than thinking, because the Creator knows nothing is random. So if we're sitting here feeling victimized and everything's random, we're not bearing affinity with the Creator at all. We're just in this lower level of consciousness, in like an animal, like, survival instinct consciousness, like scrambling around in survival mode, right? So rising above, the hawk has laser vision, hawkeye vision, right? Watching you like a hawk. The hawk sees, the hawk knows, right? We have the bigger perspective, the greater view, the higher perspective. So that higher perspective helps bring us into that sacred union, right? So yes, the people went to Mount Sinai and they consecrated themselves, and that's when God descended into the mountain. Moses went up the mountain. So it's like meeting us halfway, right? God came down when we prepared ourselves to draw him down. And we, sent Moses up, and Moses was an elevated, righteous soul, and he represents that servant that wants to eradicate the ego and elevate himself to be more and more pure, to be a better and better servant. So he went up the mountain to meet God and then receive the Torah, the covenant, and all of that. Oh my gosh, the winged wise ones, they never leave us alone, do they? We are always helped. They're always by our side. So angelic help, miraculous aid. So pay attention to the signs and synchronicities is a card that we get a lot, and that is goes right along with the hawk prince. The birds of prey have really been present on my street this week. I've noticed them a lot. In fact, remember the other day I was telling you guys about that big old owl in the woods that I saw on my walk? I saw it again. I think the day after I talked about that. And I mean, that thing is huge. It's like the size of a small dog, or a really big, huge cat. It was enormous. It was right out in the middle of the day. And then this morning I heard an owl hooting and hollering. It was maybe on my roof. It was very close, but the bird messengers are here. They're watching out for us, and they're sending us signs and omens. And so angelic help is on the way if we ask for it, and if we keep our eyes open and we look for it. I was really confused about all the Substack stuff. I was honestly pretty irritated and irritable about it, because I was like, great, now I'm going to have to go look up videos and get in a rabbit hole of listening to a million videos and not getting my answer. But I just kind of came to terms with it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do what it takes, because I want this thing to be successful, and I want it to go well. And so I just was like, all right, well, I'll settle in. I'll do whatever, is required. I'll go down the rabbit hole, just get cozy with it. And then, you know what? First video I found was of this dude who's a great teacher. He answered all of my questions right off the bat. And he even ran into the same weird, confusing things that I would have run into, and answered those in the video. Couldn't have been more perfect. It was definitely a moment where the heavens were like, this is the video that you need, and there's a part 2 that's going to answer all your follow-up questions. And it's so crazy, because none of his channel was about Substack. It was just part of a million other things that he was doing. And he's like, oh, by the way, while I was trying to set up a Substack, I ended all these things, and so I thought this might be a helpful video kind of thing. It was amazing. So angel help is there for us, but it comes in these forms, right? And so we have to pay attention to the help when it's there, and accept it, and be wise enough, and be moving at a pace that's slow enough to absorb when it's happening. We don't want to lose momentum and drag our feet through life and be procrastinating, but we also don't want to be in a big rush either. Oh, and perfect card to finish this on, Dragon's Duel. So the quality of our consciousness really directs everything that happens. In fact, sometimes we might say the wrong words, but if our motives are right, and the reason behind them and the consciousness behind those words was positivity and trying to repair or share or do something positive, a lot of times that doesn't count against us. If we say the wrong words or it comes out negative, maybe it's still effective. Maybe it still does the right thing. It's the intention behind it that matters. Now, it doesn't mean we should get sloppy and just think oh, it doesn't matter how I present. It's fine. It's my intention that matters. This is the thought that counts. But at the seed level of consciousness is everything. And love can cover a multitude of sin. So if you're coming from a loving consciousness, that can cover if something doesn't come out in the most graceful way, or you might be afraid that you've done evil tongue or evil eye, and you did it by accident, or you might be confused about an action that you're taking, but you don't know whether you're doing the right thing or not, but it's like, go back to your consciousness. Are you, what quality of consciousness are you in? Are you in a consciousness of destroying and tearing down, or trying to build up? You know, sometimes when we're building something up, something dysfunctional has to be broken down. But we can break that down without being cruel or harsh or destructive. But sometimes that's a fine line when we have to confront systems that are ready to be reformed. So sometimes it takes being pretty bold and direct, but it's like, what kind? Do you have vitriol behind it? Do you have venom behind what you're saying? Or are you articulate and you can, you know, call the spade, or speak to the dysfunction that's happening in the process, right? Without being vengeful or like hateful or having a grudge about it, right? So also the dueling dragon, what consciousness are you feeding? Are you speaking words of curses or blessing into your life? Are you focusing on the things that you want to expand and feed and grow? Or are you focusing on the things that you don't want, and by accident feeding those and growing those? This year has the numerical value of the Hebrew word for judgment. And what that means in practical terms is that this year is going to have a very black and white quality. It's going to feel either like blessings or curses, depending on where your focus is and what your consciousness is and where your faith is at. And I feel that too this year, because even just being a person with eyes wide open and understanding the events going on in the world right now, it is a fine line between being able to like perceive and contain all of this truth and still have a sense of inner peace and fulfillment. It's very difficult. It's been a tightrope walk this year trying to navigate that. But I think the more that we have bad eye and look at things from a dismal perspective or hopelessness, it will take us down. It will take us down. And if we feel cursed, we will. If we think of ourselves as cursed, we will certainly see the evidence of that this year. But if we focus on how blessed we are and focus on being proactive, solution-oriented, looking for the opportunity to heal and to correct and repair, then we will feel more blessed and protected and covered this year. So the binary quality of this year is going to be very much blessings and curses. And we're almost halfway through the year. And I think that's really crazy to say. We're in May already. It's wild how fast it's gone by. But yeah, I think that we've already seen the quality of that energy playing out this year. So if we can sort of regroup our mind and think, okay, I'm going to recommit to practicing self-control over my thoughts and my focus, and really just focus on things that are building my life and adding to the things that I want to grow. Not avoiding things that need repair, but when we look at the negativity in the world, we're meeting it proactively, right? Not just wallowing in and bemoaning our fates, right? We're approaching it in a way that we are trying to leave it better than we found it. Okay, so dragons duel: inner conflict, morality, and conscious choice. Now, there is the fact that, you know, if you're looking at things with an honest, open eyes and an open heart, you're going to feel moral outrage. And that's different than just stewing in selfish anger and feeling victimized. So I think that the moral outrage prompts us to take positive action and create change and reformation, whereas the other creates despondency and apathy and despair. All right, you guys, that is all for tonight. We had Sacred Union, the Hawk Prince. So coming together with what we've been we're being brought together with our desire. The plot playing out is not by accident at all. We have a higher perspective and angelic beings watching out for us and assisting in ways that we can't see, but we need to ask for that help. We don't need to see anything as random, but like look for the spirit communication, signs, synchronicities, that divine guidance. And we need to watch the quality and the seed level of our consciousness, because that is either going to give us a blessed journey or a cursed journey. So which dragon are you feeding? All right, that's all for tonight. We'll be back together tomorrow for our weekly alchemy message, where we are unpacking our approach to the work this week. All right, peace be with you. Ciao.